Hello, everyone. When I told someone that we're having a conversation on food innovation at Propelify, the first question the person asked me is, are you guys going to talk about how we use drones to deliver food? I said, well, I don't know, but we'll see. So food is something so important to all of us, and technology has gone a long way to change the way we approach dinner time. So today we're going to talk briefly about food and how we've changed farming, access to food, or even food delivery as we know it over the years. I have Marc here and I have Kristen, and I would allow them to tell you briefly about what their company does.
Hi, my name is Kristen Adamowski. I lead the virtual restaurants team at Uber Eats. So the virtual restaurants team is responsible for our virtual restaurant business, which is launching delivery-only concepts out of existing brick-and-mortar kitchens. So what we do is we're able to identify what eaters are searching for in a given neighborhood and identify where there are supply gaps in that neighborhood, and there may not be sort of restaurants or that selection available for delivery. So because we can identify these, we work with restaurants to spin up concepts. So we may identify a need for salads in the heart of Brooklyn, and we'll work with another company to sort of spin up a salad concept to drive demand for the restaurant. But essentially, this allows us to bring better options, more selection to eaters who are looking for that delivery convenience.
That's great. Marc, do you want to go?
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Marc, and I'm one of the co-founders for AeroFarms. We are the world leader for indoor vertical farming, and so our global headquarters are nearby in Newark, New Jersey, and we're growing indoors in warehouses. And I love the example you provided of salad concept. Well, we're growing leafy greens all year round, and we can be able to provide fresh access to locally grown produce. And this is really fundamentally changing about where we think about access to food. We think about production. We think about how we can think about even a better product. So whether it's raining outside or whether it's the time of year, we're actually agnostic to that because of where we're growing. And so we're able to optimize our production, our food, and deliver a better product that has more nutrition, more flavor, and work with a wide range of different selling partners. We work with major supermarkets, we work with major institutions, we work with major food service companies, major restaurants. We even have our own farm stand where we open up our doors and the community can come in and get access to freshly harvested food.
That's great. And for us, one of the key things we do at GrubEasy is we use technology to educate people. So one of the key things is today we have 1 in 5 kids in America, they're obese, and 52% of adults in America struggle with preventable chronic diseases that are related to poor eating patterns and physical inactivity. So what can we do about it? How can we use technology to educate people and encourage the next generation to make better dining choices? That's one key thing we do at GrubEasy. We partner with schools to educate the next generation about the importance of food and also reward them. So without much ado, I'll go on to talk about, we're going to ask a few questions about food deserts. Most of you will know neighborhoods where they have very, very poor access to food. And because of that, they really don't have much options and they eat whatever they find. So how can we use technology to improve access to those areas? Most of them are low-income neighborhoods. They can't afford much. So how can we use technology to enhance access to food in those neighborhoods?
Yeah, happy to share more. We think about the work we're trying to do at AeroFarms. We're a mission-driven organization. We're a certified B Corporation, which means that there's a scorecard on how we're doing against environmental factors as well as societal factors. The idea that we can bring the farms right into cities. And so the idea when we talk about being in Newark, our farms are really by the community, for the community. We're creating jobs, we're creating year-round employment, we're creating wages and benefits, and then we're increasing the access to healthier options. And so we're actually, where our farms are located, it is by definition a food desert, and so it's very limited. So the fact that we can actually open up the doors is helping address that immediately and directly. But one of the reasons why Newark has been such a great home for us, our headquarters, we started out in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes area, but we've actually had a working farm using our technology in an inner city school in Newark for over 9 years now. And it's one of our systems is right in their dining hall. And it's a great example. It's a kindergarten through 8th grade program. It's a great example in terms of not only are we creating the next generation of farmers or consumers, they're growing it and because they have a connection with their food and how it's grown, they're actually eating it. And so these systems are, it's right in their dining hall. It's the shortest farm-to-table experience around for the students. And so the technology, this ability to grow indoors, is allowing them to create this connection with food and make a meaningful difference.
That's really cool. Kristen, do you want to say something?
Yeah, so I think part of the reason why there aren't a lot of food options in these sort of desert areas is because it's very expensive to start a restaurant. And sort of part of the idea behind virtual restaurants is using a shared kitchen space to lower that cost on a per restaurant basis. So if you think about, there's this trend in like ghost kitchens or dark kitchens, and what sort of entrepreneurs are doing now is creating ghost kitchens in neighborhoods where there's maybe not a lot of high foot traffic, which makes the real estate cost lower. But because of food delivery, we're able to sort of facilitate the delivery of food from those locations to the end consumer. Of course, longer term, there's the idea of drones. So you have things like mobile kitchens, even drone delivery, which can help move food from one place to another more easily. Uber Eats is testing drones in San Diego, which you may have read about. So I think there's a lot of regulatory constraints there, but hopefully we can work through those.
That's really cool. And then we'll move on to quality of food. So we've talked about access to food. What about the quality of food? Is it possible, or are we doing enough in terms of employing technology to see how we can improve the quality of food that is been people can access to, that people have access to, or people put on the table every day?
That's really at the heart of what we put first and foremost is the quality, and we think about key things when we think about that. We think about the taste, about the flavor, about the nutritional density as well. And so our technology allows us to be able to have that controlled growing environment all year round. So there's that level of consistency and the ability to deliver that. There's really important parts, though, in terms of food safety as well. We think about controlled growing, seed to package, it's all under one roof. And this is really, really important when you think about headline news around food recalls with field-grown product. There's constant issues and constant challenges. We see that climate change has really made that much more difficult in terms of variability. And so our way of growing can help ensure a more consistent and more secure food system and food source. But when we talk about really changing behavior, changing how to address communities, how to nourish communities, the thing that we're excited about is that one of the key things is that we make it taste good. And people are really excited about the flavors, the varieties. And our high bar is actually no salad dressing is needed, so that people are enjoying the greens, enjoying the textures, and there's being they feel like their palates are being woken up again. So it's exciting to bring some new news and some new developments there.
One thing that Uber Eats is really focused on is food safety and quality as well. I think one of the biggest concerns with food delivery that consumers have is now that it's coming from a courier, is it going to be in the same quality that I would get if I actually went to the restaurant? And so our marketplace focuses on first controls. So if there are restaurants that are making people sick, we know that right away. We have the data points that can tell us if a consumer writes in because their food was of poor quality, and then we can control which restaurants sort of are still on the marketplace. But second is transparency, and I think we do a lot around making sure that eaters know if something is vegan or vegetarian friendly or gluten free, and we just actually are about to launch an allergen product so that eaters will still have that visibility.
That's great. Just to follow up on what you just said, Kristen, so do you have a way do your consumers have a way of knowing a little bit more about what they're ordering? So for instance, you have a breakdown of, I want to order this meal, but beyond the allergy information, beyond the taste and reviews, is there any way that you're gathering data to show them the breakdown of the nutritional components, or something more than just the basics?
Yeah, so I think it is somewhat based on regulations in different markets, but I know some markets require that you put the calories next to each food item, and so we do have restaurants who have that. And then each of the items, when we create the menus, require a description. So they should at least know what ingredients are in that item. And then ultimately we do have photographers that go to every single location before we launch, so they can take photos of the food, which gives them more transparency into what it looks like.
And Marc, you mentioned something about your technology could help you regulate the quality of the food you produce. So let me give an example of salad. So I'm taking this salad and I'm thinking, this is just like something I just bought in the farmer's market yesterday. Yours is different. Why and how?
Well, we can actually be able to tell you, how we grew it and the entire process. When you talk about photographing the finished food, we actually are using spectral imaging. We're using machine vision. We're actually looking at things from a technology standpoint to be able to map out what are the characteristics. And that allows us to have leading indicators around the quality and health of the product. And so it allows us to be able to use technology. When we think about our growing system, there's literally millions of data points that we're capturing that goes into each one of the harvests. And that allows us then to have ability to be able to mine that and think about we're harvesting not only the plants, but also the data, then ultimately the insights in terms of, again, how to replicate that and how to scale that. So that's how we're using technology.
That's really great. So before we take questions from the audience, I want us to talk about the future. What we have today is great. It's good. I mean, before a few years ago, people can only think of takeout as the best way of delivery, but now they can actually sit in their home and order from anywhere. We have, in the past, we could think of farming, and you think of actually going to the farm and tilling the soil, but now you've changed. Things have changed, but what does the future hold? What is the next big thing for us in terms of farm to fork and everything in between? How can we employ technology to improve the future of food?
Well, the work we're doing today is really about that future, and we're bringing that to life. And so, to give you an example, we have a program that we're doing with the Foundation for Food and Agriculture Research. It's a $2 million initiative, and it's specifically around our ability to identify stressors of leafy greens to optimize for taste and nutrition to help address satiety. And this is research, and it's working with some public land grant schools like Cornell University or Rutgers University as well, to be able to think about what are the lessons to help the broader agriculture community. And so what's exciting is that we're able to really have a level of precision and control to think about this new category of food. It's pesticide free. It's grown with 95% less water. We think about the flavor and the characteristics. It's more nutritionally dense. And that's what's really exciting when we think about the future and the work we're doing right now.
That's great. That's really great. Kristen, do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the future of food in terms of food delivery sort of looks like, back in the day, everyone used to farm their own goods. And now I think a similar trend with food delivery and sort of prepared food will emerge, where people aren't really home cooking their meals anymore. They're outsourcing that. And so restaurants will become the new everyday living. It will just come in the form of delivery via drone or via courier through a delivery platform. So as a consumer, instead of thinking about all the things you have to do to prepare for a meal at the end of the day, you can be at work and you can order something to be delivered to you at home for your family at the moment you get there. And so it creates a lot of convenience for the everyday consumer.
That's great. We'll open this to the audience to ask questions. Please feel free to ask any questions you may have. Yes.
So the question is, growing organically in the field versus growing indoors, what are some of the differences? Well, what we encounter is that there's a lot of variability, right? There's biology at hand, and the question is, how do you harness that? How do you think about, managing that? What we do, though, is we actually do plant tissue analysis, and we're actually able to look at that molecular, at that cellular level, and see about the quality. We look at something like the stomata in terms of the opening and closing. We look at the absorption of the nutrients in the roots. We look at how we deliver the water, how we deliver those key nutrients, and so it's allowing us to have a level of precision and control that you would just never have out in the field. And this is really beyond organic. There's 0 pesticides used. Organic farmers use and have to use, because of just the issues, a lot of different pesticides as well. And so this is about rethinking about our system. To put it in perspective, our way of growing on an annualized basis is 390 times more productive per square foot than the conventional farm, and versus organic, it's over 450 times more. So those are just highlighting some of the challenges. We think about how are we going to feed the world? How are we going to feed the masses? We talk about the broader macro issues, increasing population, increasing urbanization, more issues around our food system. So we're, having a big impact in terms of how we can think differently here. So 100% third-party testing, and it's significantly higher than the field farm. Yeah, because again, we're looking at the building blocks. We're looking at the 17 essential elements the plant needs, the macronutrients, micronutrients, and we've developed these very codified algorithms looking at, again, how much fertilizer is needed, different types, by stage of growth and by variety, so we can have a very measured approach there. So just to build on the idea of quality, yes. So first of all, we think about our system today, leafy greens in particular, but I mean, there's a reason why Salinas, California is known as the salad bowl, right? It's because of the temperature and the climate. But imagine that product has got to travel over 3,000 miles to get here. So you have the environmental factors just in terms of transportation, refrigeration. When they say it's triple washed, right? That's actually quite aggressive in terms of first they're washing away the soil, then they're washing away the chemicals, and they're washing away the cross-contamination. But that bruises the product, and so there's a lot of issues with that. And there's also a lot of spoilage, and so we haven't really talked about that. But the idea of that we're enabling local production, just-in-time growing, is incredibly more efficient in terms of how we get the product to our selling partners and ultimately to the consumer. And so it's a big difference from that standpoint. So our retail brand is under a brand called Dream Greens, and it's Dream Greens, and it's grown by AeroFarms, and we highlight that idea that it's locally grown, Jersey fresh. We also highlight the key messages around the peak flavor, and we also highlight messages around no pesticides, and working closely, again, with the selling partners about how to merchandise it. And so, but you can find it not only at the Whole Foods, but you can find it at ShopRite, you can find it at major, supermarkets.
One more.
Well, the question is, does it make sense to have centralized production versus something in your neighborhood? It has to do with efficiency, right? And so even the concept, while California is this bed of agriculture, this whole concept of farm out, right, is about consolidation. And it's really challenging to have the right kind of economies of scale. Farming is very, very challenging as well when you think about the next generation. The aging of the farmer is over 58 years of age today as well. And so how do we think about the next generation and create opportunities? The work we're doing is about bringing the farms to the communities, creating more economic opportunities. We have team members, 40% of our team lives in Newark, is from Newark. 85% live within 15 miles, so it's really by the community, for the community. But it's a group that had never thought about farming as a career, and we're able to provide that opportunity in terms of how we do the training and onboarding and then what we call standard operating procedures. It depends on what the business model is in terms of, again, there's connections and programs like we do at the school level, which is around education, but it also offsets their food bill that they have for their salad bar, right? So there's different ways of making a business work from that standpoint as well.
Thank you so much for your time, and thank you all for coming in today.